Hi, and welcome to the Build and Exit podcast. I'm Julie Wilkinson, and I'm the owner and founder of Wilkinson Accounting Solutions. I started the Build and Exit off the back of the work we do with my company because we work on about 3 to 5 acquisitions a month, and came to realise that there was a big gap in the market of entrepreneurs, investors and business owners truly understanding financial statements and how they're impacting the cash flow of their business, valuations, and causing a lot of problems through due diligence because people haven't got the right paperwork set up. So I've had to date around about 14 guests. We're in August 23. And I've decided to do a couple of episodes that are slightly different to normal. So I've had a lot of guests, everyone from sort of people who have done management buyouts, bought distressed companies, funders. We've looked at HR. We've looked at a multitude of different areas, and we've got lots more to come. But I had a lot of people come to me and ask about my own personal journey. And I actually had the pleasure of being interviewed on live TV in July 23 with a lady called Victoria Beale, who hosts a TV channel called NTV. And we've decided to bring those interviews into our podcast because it really gives an insight into the background, why I do what I do, and also, why we're passionate about acquisitions myself and the company, and also what the future holds. So I'm excited to bring a lot of these sort of personal journey stories to the podcast channel. It's a bit of a different format because someone is interviewing me, not the other way around, but I think they're great for people to get to know the person behind the show. So we're at nearly 2,000 downloads today, which I'm really proud about. If you love our show, please hit the subscribe button. As I always say, if you have any content or episode content you'd like, always contact us. But I hope you enjoy my own personal episodes, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Good evening, my name's Victoria Beale. I'm your host for NTV Unscripted. It's lovely to be back and see you all. I hope you've been well. I'm here today with my guest, the wonderful Julie Wilkinson. She is an amazing serial entrepreneur and a mergers and acquisition specialist. Julie, thank you for coming today and being my guest. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute honour and privilege to have you here. So, Julie, you've got an amazing story, and I can't wait to share that with people at home. Tell us, first of all, about your sort of beginnings. Where was young Julie born and family life and so on?
So, I was born in Peterborough in Cambridgeshire. I've lived there all my life. I did take a year out, went to Australia for a year, but that's where I resided most of my life. Grew up with, I've got a sister, obviously my dad and my mum and my family, most of my family lives around. I suppose I would have what you'd call quite a standard childhood, really. Lived in a nice home, went to school. I wouldn't say I did particularly that well in school, but I was okay in school. I had quite a turning point in my life because when I was 14, my mum died.
Right.
So obviously that was a big turning point for us, and for me especially, because I was very close to my mum, and I don't think I was that outgoing at that point. I used to stay at home quite a lot and be with her, so I think that was a big turning point for me, and my mind changed a lot, and I did I think I really sort of turned. I don't think I intentionally did it, but I think it like unintentionally happened a little bit. Like my lifestyle changed and my mindset changed a little bit from it.
Right. How did that affect you at school and your education and so forth?
Well, I was going into my GCSE year, so it wasn't ideal. I did okay in school still, but I wouldn't say I exceeded, probably for obvious reasons. But it didn't really hinder me because I was really good at English, and my teachers wanted me to do English A-levels and other A-levels, but I just wasn't really ready to do that. So what I actually did was I went and did an MVQ in business studies. So I got a bit of work experience, and then I worked part-time at McDonald's as well, just to save some money. And I did that. And then after I finished it was only about 6 months after I finished that I actually went travelling then, because I went travelling when I was 18 for a year.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel like the loss of your mother made you fearless in some respects, kind of, let's just throw caution to the wind, or were you a bit more cautious?
Probably a little bit. I don't think it intentionally happened, but I think, I suppose I was from quite what you'd call a traditional home. So my mum didn't really work and my dad sort of did. And my mum sort of built her whole life around us as the kids, and I didn't really ever see her have much of a friendship circle and things like that. And I think it kind of, and then obviously like she died young because she was only 40.
Wow.
And that resonates quite a lot because obviously I'm 40 this year.
Yes.
So she was young when she died, and I suppose obviously she loved looking after the children, so she didn't really have much of a life of her own. I think that resonated with me a lot, to sort of go out and just live my life, really, because you don't expect that sort of thing to happen when you're young. It happens to other people, not to you, really.
Yeah.
So I don't think it intentionally happened, but I think probably unconsciously it happened.
Do you think that made you quite a strong person, the person you are today?
Definitely.
How did that impact on the person you are now?
Well, I'm quite resilient. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I don't know if it came just from that, but I think it must have had an impact in it. I mean, I've never really reflected or gone and spoken to anyone about it, so I don't quite know, but I think it must have had an impact in it. And I suppose it drives me because my mum didn't work, so she didn't have like her own income stream, and that's been one of the things I've definitely strived towards, is sort of knowing I can cope on my own. So I got a house quite young, so I had my own house because I got some inheritance money. So I got on the property ladder when I was about when I got back from travelling, so I was about 21, 22, so I owned my own home from quite a young age as well. So that was really good.
Fantastic. So fast forward a little bit, so you went travelling, and I think you did some teaching as well. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so I went to Australia for a gap year for 11 months, and I went to Canada for a month as well on the way home. And I was a teaching assistant, so I worked in a private school in a place called Rockhampton, which is in Queensland. And I was a teaching assistant. So I was a teaching assistant in the day for the primary school kids. And I did help people that were struggling with maths and English. I used to take them privately and help tutor them. We used to do like school. They had a private island. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Great Keppel Island. That actually was in Australia when, what was the show? When the winners of this show, they used to go to Great Keppel. They actually owned one of the other islands, so we used to go on some school trips and things. And then in the evening, I was a boarding mistress, so it was a boarding school.
Right.
So we used to have a couple of nights a week, you have to do like ground duties, and there was a private, the Olympic-sized swimming pool. So we used to do like pool duty and things like that. So it was brilliant, yeah.
Fantastic. So then you went on, obviously, further education. Did you actually go to university?
No.
Julie? No,
I didn't go to university.
That's an amazing thing to say, because we'll come back to Julie's story later. This woman has built a very amazing, successful business in 3 years, 3.5 years.
Yeah, 3.5.
But Julie, just tell us about your where you kind of went to, into your career. What were you doing kind of after you left the teaching and the travelling and so forth?
Yeah, so I came back, and I lived with my sister, and I started back in sort of purchase ledger roles. And yeah, I was working, I got made redundant. So we had an option to stay or leave, and I chose to leave. And then I went and tried, I was like an underwriter for a little bit, just like a trainee underwriter. And I was there for a few months, but then I got made redundant again.
Right.
So at that point, I had two options. I had an option I got offered a position where I could have been like a trainee mortgage underwriter, or I got offered a job at British Sugar.
Okay.
And so I suppose at the time, the trainee mortgage underwriter seemed probably like it had a few more prospects long term than sort of the purchase ledger role. But the problem was I couldn't really afford to take the salary drop because it was like a trainee. It was quite back then. I mean, it's not quite the same now, but back then it was quite really low salary. Right. And I had my house at that time, so I couldn't afford it. So I took the purchase ledger role. So I was in that role for a couple of years, and I suppose in the end I just started to think, if I lose my job here, because obviously I've been made redundant twice before, so it seemed like it could happen. I thought, I get paid quite well here. Would I get paid that well again? I thought, I've got to do something here. I've got to like change my lifestyle a little bit. So I went and asked, and I said, can I study? And they said yes. So they supported me through my study. So I did. I studied through work. So I started AAT, and I did that evenings. So we didn't go to college like full time. We did it evening and weekends. So we did evenings. So I think AAT was about 3.5 years. And then I went on to study SEMA. So that was weekend college. And actually so British used to have a graduate scheme, and all the people that used to do ACCA, SEMA, so the chartered, all sort of came from from university. I think I was only at that time one of 2 people ever that actually chartered, not going through the graduate scheme through the university. And I think they did actually review their process at that point to see whether more people study on the job.
Yeah. And what was it about numbers and kind of this kind of thing that interested you?
I don't know really. I didn't even think. I mean, I was about 25 when I started AAT, so I suppose I was a bit of a late studier as well, because not straight from school. When I first started, I didn't even think I was going to get past the first year, if I'm honest. I didn't really know because I hadn't studied for so long, but I just sort of excelled in it. And although, yeah, it is numbers, it's quite, especially seen as more strategic, like strategic finance. That was something that I took to. Like, I was really good at like the top SEMA papers because that was really strategic, and I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the journey. So I got a lot of promotions at work, and I moved companies a couple of times and got some promotions and things like that. So yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed this feeling of success as well, I think.
And you're still quite young, really, to be at the top of your game in that sector, because it's quite a hard area to be in, isn't it, if you're not a graduate?
Yeah, so I chartered in the end. I chartered at 30, so I've been chartered now over 10 years, about 10 years. Yeah, so I chartered just when I was 30. Yeah.
So then you went into employed until what age?
37, about 36, 37.
And what was the last role that you had?
So I was just senior finance in it was a retail company, a group company. I think group was about 250 million. I actually had a lot of project roles within that company. So I did have some jobs, but I did a lot of projects. I did a lot of cost out projects. Obviously, I know we'll talk about Wilkinson, my company, in a bit, but one of the reasons I started the company was because some of the project roles got me in touch with some SME companies, because I did some project work. They had done some acquisitions, and I worked for some of the smaller companies, and it made me realise, oh, these are quite poorly run, I suppose, put it nicely. And so that gave me an insight into lots of different areas. I did lots of different projects, ran big system implementations over sort of 500 people across, like, in different countries. I used to oversee the US entity and the Chinese entity as well. So I did a lot of like imports and exports and things like that.
Fantastic. It's still a massive achievement for someone that's so young. And tell us about the personal life, because I think you met your partner, husband now, during those times. Tell us about him. You can say hello to him as well if you want to.
Hi, Mark. I think you should be watching. So we've been together 11 years. So actually I met him when I was studying SEMA, and it was quite a funny story.
Here he is on the screen now.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, that's us. That's at the Isle of Wight, because we do a lot of boating. Yeah, I met him. It was quite a funny story actually, because I met him as I was leading up to one of my exams. So it wasn't my top SEMA exams. I think it was the ones before. And I remember we were chatting because we actually met online dating. Oh, okay. So yeah, online. And I know. And I was messaging him, and we were talking for quite a while. And I remember saying, "Oh, I can't because I'm studying." But then we met up the weekend before the exam, and then I was like, "Right, I can't see you for a few days because my exam was on the Wednesday."
Yeah. Discipline, you see?
Yeah, discipline. Although when I got to my top SEMAs, I never failed any exams actually. I passed first time on every single exam, apart from when I got to my when we had to do 3, and I always blame Mark because I said, like, he took my attention away. It's always his fault. Yeah. So yeah.
But here you are, Julie, on a TV show. So
yeah, I know, it's cool.
Fantastic. And tell us, have you got a couple of lovely dogs as well? I don't know, the producer has been dying to show you these photographs at home.
Yes.
So tell us about your lovely doggies. There they are.
Oh yeah. Well, unfortunately the white one's passed now.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a white Alsatian Dudley, and Teddy, the black ones, and a Akita cross Alsatian. Right. He's still alive. And then we've got a new puppy now called Jessie. She's 6 months old. She's actually an Aussie Doodle, so she's a cross between an Australian Shepherd and a Standard Poodle.
Fantastic. And tell us about, you've got this dog whisperer diploma, I call it, but it's not called that at all.
No.
What is it, Julie? Please tell everyone.
So I did an animal psychology diploma. I did that way back when we first got, because I'd never had any dogs, and obviously Dudley and Teddy are big dogs. My husband's dad had a Rottweiler Alsatian, so he had grown up with dogs. I actually got attacked by a dog when I was young, so I wasn't really, I wouldn't say I was like, didn't like dogs. I wasn't really fearful of them, but I'd just never been brought up in that environment. So at first I was a bit like, I don't even want a dog. I was like, it'll be your dog. So again, this is quite a funny story. So we did research a lot about the breeds, because obviously some bigger breeds need more walking than others. So we sort of fell in love with Dudley. So we brought Dudley home, and I said to my husband, it'll be your dog. And then literally a couple of days after we got him, he was like, oh, I'm going away for 4 days. And he sort of left me with this dog. Right. So I was like, what am I going to do with this dog for 4 days? Anyway, he came home from that, and me and Dudley were just like inseparable after that. He was like, that's meant to be my dog. And I was like, no, it's my dog now. Anyway, then things were happening with Dudley. So, I mean, because obviously Mark hadn't really had his own dog. He'd been as a family pet, and this dog just wasn't listening. And we'll go and sit, and I was just like, he doesn't know what we're saying, because we were just trying to tell it to sit. So we got this dog trainer, and she showed us click training, and she did more in about 30 seconds than we'd done in about 12 weeks.
Right.
So I just really took to it, and then I started training them, and then I was just interested. So I did this animal psychology training just to sort of learn behaviours and things like that, because obviously they were big, so they had to be well trained.
Fantastic.
And and to be honest, they've been really good. Yeah, really good.
And you've got other outdoor interests as well. You do a lot of outdoorsy stuff. Can you run through all that for us?
Yeah, so we've got a 6.5 metre rib, which is when we go to the Isle of Wight. That's on the water. That's where we go.
Okay.
We've had a couple of jet skis, so we've kind of always been into motorboating, but we've recently just sold the jet ski. We've just bought a sort of small sailing boat, catamaran. So we're just kind of getting into that at the minute. So next year we've booked a holiday to go. We've hired out chartering a 40-foot sailing boat. That will get us I think it gets our competent crew, like an RYA 1-day competent crew license or something from that holiday.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we're trying to train ourselves. So eventually we want to get maybe our own bigger catamaran. So one day.
Tell us about your interest in health and wellness and mindfulness, because that's only been quite a recent shift, hasn't it?
Yeah, so I started this year. So my sister sort of transferred from accounting. She trained to do belief coding, and she's been quite into wellness for a couple of years. And I was a little bit close, but I think it started for me because I went to Jamaica in January. I had this really nice holiday, and the business ran when I was I had nearly a month off, and I came back and I thought, I actually still felt a little bit bored on the holiday. I had a good time on the holiday, but it made me realise actually it doesn't really matter where you go. Money doesn't really fulfil you.
No.
And so I joined a wellness centre. So I've got a wellness centre local to us, which I went on, which I go to now. So I do yoga 3 times a week. And I just started to read a lot and watch a lot of podcasts on sort of meditation and manifestation.
Right.
I do it a lot now. I probably meditate. Well, I think I do it just naturally when things get tough, but I meditate at least 3 times a day.
Right.
I do a lot of manifestation and mindfulness, sort of breathing exercises and journaling and gratitude journals and things like that. So,
and can you share with us some of the manifestation techniques for the audience at home?
Yeah, so I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But
disclaimer, we've just written it.
Yes, but. So what I believe, what it does for me is meditation brings me back to the present. Yeah. So what I do know is 95% of our actions are gone from our unconscious mind, and they're traumas and things that have happened in the past that are telling us stories that basically aren't true.
Right.
So I find that meditation brings me back to now. So when my mind goes, because I think it does in everyone's mind, think the worst case scenario, when it goes ridiculous and you start.
Now, I think things are hard for people, absolutely.
And so the meditation sort of brings you back to the present. So it's just sort of breathing exercises. So put your feet on the floor and just feel the floor.
Right.
And breathe deep breaths.
Bare feet?
Yeah, generally? Bare feet, bare feet generally, yeah. So, and if you run out of time, I do it in the shower sometimes just to utilise time effectively.
Yeah.
Whereas manifestation is more about living, realising your dreams. So the brain doesn't know reality from fiction. So if you tell yourself you're going to be you're a millionaire, if you just kept telling yourself you were a millionaire, the brain doesn't actually know you're not. The body might know, but the brain doesn't. This is what I'm led to believe. And so that's why you have the manifesting techniques, is to, well, in a way, you could argue you're lying to yourself, but you're not. You just truly believe something's going to happen. And it's not like it just falls from the sky and happens. You still have to take action. But what it's meant to do is you make more conscious decisions. Because you're meditating, your mind's clearer. You think more clearly, so you make better decisions.
Right. Can you talk us through the techniques that you would use for the manifestation? Yeah,
so close your eyes for 12 minutes 3 times a day and basically just visualize what you want. So what does it look like? So so I'm doing professional speaking. So if I'm visualizing what professional speaking is, it's here, on TV, on stage, but who are the inspirational people that do that, what do they look like? How do they behave? So one thing I have a morning routine. So now when I get up in the morning, for the first 15 minutes, I don't do anything for the first hour on socials or emails.
Right.
I just get up and I think to myself, who do I want to be today? How do I want to show up? What do I want my life to be? telling myself like what I want, like what am I going to achieve.
And do you say it? Do you think it? Do you write it?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
I say it and think it a lot. Sometimes I journal it. And because that just puts you in a place that you're taking control of what you want. And then I meditate. So then I suppose, and I think for me, the meditation and manifestation comes together, whether you are meant to do it separately, I don't, because like I say, I've only been doing it for 6 months. So, and I have my own sort of wellbeing coach, because I think everyone should invest in themselves.
Just to leave everyone on that happy note, what has this shift and transformation done for you personally? Just share that with us.
Oh, it's like changed my life. Yeah, like my outlook on life, the way I behave, I can definitely see it. And I think I do make, well, hence I'm here with you, because it's all happened.
All happening.
Yeah, in the last, well, for me, it's been a bit of a journey, but I've taken a lot of big actions, especially over the last few months, not like worrying so much. And even when I think, oh, this might happen, actually realising, but it's not happening today.
Fantastic. Well, look, Julie, let's pick up from there and we'll just talk about how that kind of has affected your entrepreneurial life. If you could just elaborate on that for us.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, it's just helped me become clearer. And so like I say, I meditate all the time. I think I do it like naturally now, just throughout the day. So when you have hard times, because we all do as business owners and in life in general, really, I just go and breathe. Even if I just take 5 seconds just to breathe. And it definitely, and I've made some more I say rash, but more sort of decisions that are sort of changing my life, because I think, we all go to the point where we have a bit of fear. Can I do this or can I do that? And the fear holds us back from where we want to get to. And I find that when I meditate and manifest, I sort of see visions more. And I'm just like, actually, I believe in myself, so I know I can do this. And then I take the action from that belief.
Right. That's important, that chain of events there. And make sure you take notice of this at home, ladies and gentlemen.